Good morning. It's Sunday morning, and I just released the video making the acoustic panels for my listening room in the basement, and it's kind of interesting. Well, I think it's interesting. Maybe some other people will think it's interesting as well. Interesting story with that. I didn't plan on making that. It was my plan to fully concentrate on the new clamps build and give myself lots of time to get that done the way that I want to do it. But the big problem is the way I am, and I don't know if I was born this way or if years of working maybe in construction made me this way, but I respond to pressure. As in, I need a deadline, and I need it to be relatively soon to motivate me to get stuff done. And it's not that I haven't got the clamps done. They are done. You can see them over there. They're finished. I filmed everything. Except for the intro for the build series. But the build video for those will be out next weekend. Okay? And so let's get back to that, responding to pressure. So I gave myself lots of time to do the clamps, and what I found was that I was getting distracted too easily. Without that pressure, I get distracted and I want to do something else. Okay? That's the long and the short of it. So I hopped in my van and I went to Home Depot, which you can actually walk into now, and looked at what they have for plywood, because it was my intention actually to buy the stuff for the diffusers for the back wall of that room and not for the panels. I didn't want to do the panels yet because I really don't need them yet. However, not a lot of plywood in that store. Not a lot of anything actually in that store. A lot of stuff. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about that, but what I did find was this plywood that's not really very good, but I figured it would be good enough to make those panels, make the panels with. And I bought 3 sheets of it. $95 a sheet, though, so not cheap for what you're getting. I mean, from a distance, it looks good. But the face veneer, which is on both sides, so it's good both sides, you could say, is so thin, you can practically see through it. And the glue that they use to hold that veneer on is not very strong. So it is very brittle. When you're cutting it, it'll chip off very easily. However, I made it work for the frames, like the boxes for the panels, and then, you know, to fasten the fabric. That was the big thing. That's what I went back and forth on, to fasten the fabric to those boxes. I didn't want to make separate, you know, frames from 3/4 inch stock that you would try to wrap the cloth around and staple it on the back, or glue it and staple it, and then try to get those fastened to the box. I said, oh, that's a nightmare for 6 panels if you're making 6. So I came up with the idea for the spline, and I'm holding one right now. This is a walnut one, the fancy one for the front of the panels. I used oak, an old piece of oak wood that I had, narrow. Like, that's the beauty of it. You're not using a lot of material to do this, right? You're certainly not using a million staples, which is what I didn't want to get into. So, because I don't have enough staples, I have to go buy more staples. I have lots of wood. So, yeah, that was the neat part of that, right? Putting the spline in to stretch the fabric nice and tight in the thing. And it worked, because I didn't know if it would when I first came up with the idea. But now that I do, I can use it again in the future if I ever want to make that stuff or something like it again. Reaction to the video has been positive so far. I was concerned, really concerned. Like, when I was editing it, I was liking it, right? I said, why don't you try something different and see how it flies? And because I made videos similar to this before, And they've done well, sort of. It's hard to tell, right? So I came this close to not publishing it this morning, because what I did was I went and I looked at the other version, the one with the narration, because there are two versions of the video. There's the one that I put out this morning on my main channel, and then there's the one that I'm going to put out tomorrow morning on my speaker and audio channel, which has narration and actually has measurements of the room at the end as well to show how effective the panels were. And like, I watched that and I said, no, this other one's going to be, everybody's going to hate this, so don't publish that. And I came this close to not doing it. At the last minute, I said, what the hell? Just do it. It's up already, you know? You've got it uploaded. And for me, that's a big deal because my internet is expensive here. Anyway, so, yeah. And reaction has been pretty good, you know? I expected like a wash of complaints from people about the music. Oh, I really wish you'd talk in your videos. Why did you stop talking in your videos? You know, they see that video and they say, well, this is the end of narration for John. No, I'm just trying something different, okay? And I thought it worked, but, you know, the real measure is how people react. And some people assume that this was what I was talking about as far as something worthy of putting on there. It's not really. Like I said, it was me giving into the pressure of doing something else, you know, in a compact time like that. And, you know, if it does well, it does well. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That's all I can do. But the one I was planning on was the clamps, right? And that probably, you know, with all this buildup, probably flop, completely flop, right? So we'll see. We will see. What else can I say? Yeah, I made the thumbnail. I had these images of the 6 albums and that are on the cover, like on that thumbnail. And this is something I did more than a year ago, actually. I took album covers and I broke them down to black and white, like you see on the thing. And I did 6 of the ones that I really liked. And my intention, well, I had this done. My brother actually printed off the 6 on bigger pieces of really good photographic paper. And I was going to make frames to put those on. Except I haven't gotten around to doing that yet. So I still have the prints and they're sitting there, but I had the files on my computer, the image files. So I said, why don't you just put those on the front of the thing and see how they look? Because that was like an idea I had for that, for the acoustic panels, was to put album covers on the front, painted on, right? So somebody suggested burning it into the canvas on the covers with the laser, but I think that would make it too weak, especially where it's stretched. So instead, I'd use the laser to cut out stencils from cardboard, because that's one thing that, you know, that'd be really good for us, cutting out stencils. And then you take the stencil and you lay it on top. Maybe put some spray glue on the back of the stencil so it doesn't, I don't know. I've never tried. I'd have to experiment, right? I got more cloth that I can try it with, but yeah, that's the gist of it, or the idea anyway, to make stencils that you lay on top and then spray black. I'll give you a sneak peek of the clamp. Here it is here. I still need to put screws in the end so it doesn't slip off, but that's not a big deal. And like I said, these work just like regular clamps. You slide them in, you tighten them up, and you're done. And then you loosen it, it falls out, and then it comes apart. No tapping it, no wedges, no nothing. So, awesome! This will be next weekend. Something to look forward to.
Give me an F.
F.
Give me an A.
A.
Give me an S.
S.
Give me a C.
C.
Give me an ism.
Ism.
What's that spell?
Fascism.
What's that spell?
Fascism.
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 Fascism.